All right, hi everyone. So welcome to Scape Startup Hack Bootcamp, organized in partnership with Amazon Web Services. My name is Natalie. I'm from the Scape Entrepreneurship team, and I'm very happy to see all of you guys here, all 64 of you guys currently. So yes, once again, if you have anybody that is going to join us or is intending to join us, please ask them to log in right now, because we'll be starting the program really soon. So this program is essentially a 3-day intensive bootcamp that equips you with the skills you need to kickstart your very own entrepreneurship journey. This starts with 2 days of workshops and will end with a virtual career fair on the last day. So before I run through and start our program really proper, I'll just like to share with you guys a little bit on what is Scape Entrepreneurship all about and the different programs we carry out to empower youth like yourselves. So here we go. All right, and now I would also like to introduce Alice Ake, Senior Manager of Scape Entrepreneurship, to share more about the goals of Scape Entrepreneurship and why we are excited to embark on this program. Over to you, Alice.
Hi, thanks, Nat. Yeah, welcome to the Startup Hack Bootcamp that's created in partnership with Amazon Web Services. Escape Entrepreneurship, we seek to develop the new generation of young entrepreneurs and startups by offering them access to the various development programs, such as this skill-based hands-on workshop, right, like Startup Hack itself, meet the masters, and also networking sessions. On top of that, we also have a co-working space and community called Hub Quarters that's conveniently located at Somerset. As we move along the different phases in the COVID-19, it is important to recognize how COVID has actually impacted the whole global economy and how we move on to innovate and carry on with our daily journey. At the same time, we also recognize that this crisis is also a strong driver for innovation and creativity to pilot solution and strengthen the startups and youth. Scape Entrepreneurship team has been actively rendering our continuous support to the youth community and working closely in the ecosystem with industry partners like AWS and our community partners in this bootcamp. Through the various programs like this bootcamp, various programs like our creative fellowship, or even platform like industry networking night, that's where you can actually pick up new skills, new knowledge, not only being able to pick up those, but able to connect and grow together as a community. It's no longer about having a dream and an idea, but more of having it to live it bravely, reiterating the execution during this trying period. So thank you so much for taking the first step in getting started in this entrepreneurship journey and committing your valuable time in this bootcamp. I hope that you have a happy learning and hope to see you in headquarters soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Alice. So, also, if you'd like to find out more about our programs, you can head over to our landing page at www.scape.sg/scape entrepreneurship. Or you can also drop us an email at hubquarters@scape.sg. So, this information and links will also be dropped in the chat in a bit. And of course, I would like to thank our wonderful partner of this program. Without them, this program would absolutely not happen. And with that, I would like to invite Adrian Lim, Program Manager, AWS Educate from Amazon Web Services, to share more about AWS Educate and why they are excited about this program. Adrian, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Now, on behalf of the team at Amazon Web Services, I would like to welcome you to the first Scape Entrepreneurship Startup Hack. It's a 3-day bootcamp focusing on startups in partnership with AWS. Now, as many of you know by now, startup has been the buzzword when Singapore, the Smart Nation Initiative was launched about 5 years ago. Now, you know, the term is often associated with the famous Silicon Valley in San Francisco, right? But this is big now in Singapore, of course. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know now there's even a new Korean drama called Startup, starring Bae Suzy and Nam Jun Hyuk, the two leads of the show. Now, this K-drama produced by Studio Dragon and which premiered on October 10 on both Netflix and TVN, screen every Saturday and Sunday. You probably guessed by now from the name that the plot in this K-drama is really about related to startup life and the techpreneur ecosystem in Seoul. Now, I'm a fan of the show, I must tell you. I thought the drama provided very relevant terms to the startup life. And if you're a newbie in startup and the techpreneur world, now I think this is a good place to start, get entertained while you're learning. Now, throughout the show, they will provide definitions, I think, of words like venture capitalist, accelerator, angel investors, funding rounds, and more. But however, in real life, things are not the same as the Korean drama. Many of you might not know of that. Airbnb is one of the biggest household names in tech. It began as a startup hosted on AWS. We can talk about Grab, Deliveroo, Netflix, right? They're all on AWS. While Airbnb and many startup success may seem overnight, 90% of the startup, as we know, fail due to lack of funding, the wrong team members, slow product innovation, scalability, as well as many other factors determining whether a startup will rise to the top or flop. Right? In the next 2 or 3 days, you will hear from an awesome slate of speakers that AWS and Scape Entrepreneurship have invited to share their invaluable knowledge, first-hand experience in entrepreneurship. We have deliberately organized each segment to mirror the syllabus found in AWS Educate Startup Batch module. The AWS Startup Batch module was launched only in January this year for inspiring entrepreneurs to learn about how to turn a startup idea into reality. So you'll learn strategies on how to scale a platform, secure and distribute content, improve your elevator pitch, how to fundraise, legal fundamentals. So I hope you will use this bootcamp, learn as much as you can, and equip yourself with the skills and the resources you need to kickstart your very own entrepreneurship journey. Now, like what was mentioned by Alice, a special part of this bootcamp is the virtual career fair catered to Singapore students, graduates who are seeking internships and jobs with AWS partner companies. Look forward to that at the end of the bootcamp. And I hope and I wish you a great learning experience ahead on AWS Educate too, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adrian. And of course, our final thank yous go to our wonderful community partners that are very much an integral part of the youth, entrepreneur, and startup ecosystem here in Singapore. So thank you to Block 71, Eat Launchpad, Edge, Hatch, NUS Entrepreneurship Society, Padang & Co, TIE, Sandbox Advocate, Simyen, and Youth Entrepreneurship Society Singapore. And with that, let's jump into the program proper. Here's a breakdown of the next few days. If you already have access to AWS Educate Startup module via the platform, you'll know that this is the 6 topics that the module consists of these 6 topics. So over the course of the next 2 days, we'll be covering all 6 topics through the use of keynotes, workshops, panels, as well as fireside chats with entrepreneurs and industry professionals. So on the 3rd day, you'll get access to the AWS Virtual Career Fair, which Adrian mentioned earlier, where you'll be able to continue to build your skills through working with and accessing corporates and tech firms. As you can see here are some of the partner companies that will be available during the Virtual Career Fair. Please do note that the access link to the AWS Virtual Career Fair will only be provided on the 2nd day of the webinar, which will be tomorrow. The link for the webinar is exactly the same, so don't worry about for signing up for the next day or for tomorrow. So post bootcamp, you'll also be able to receive an exclusive Scape X AWS t-shirt, which actually all of the team is wearing right now. So if you can look at outfits, it's a bit hard right now because we're all on Zoom. But yeah, so we're all wearing it right now. It's a really nice shirt. And you can see the picture here, kind of what it looks like, as well as a participation certificate. So also note that the shirt and certificate will only be provided to attendees that complete and receive the startup badge on the AWS Educate platform. So you have to complete the entire module on the platform. I've done it myself, and it's a really great module, and you really will learn a lot. Redemption method for both will also be released tomorrow, the same time as the virtual career fair link. So for today, we'll be covering the first 3 topics: getting started as a founder, customer discovery and development, as well as building your MVP. We'll start off with a keynote on the first topic, followed by a panel on customer discovery and development. After which, we'll have a walkthrough of the AWS Educate platform so that you'll be able to understand how to register, as well as how to use the platform and get your badges. After that, we'll have a short 15-minute break so that you can rest and recharge. After your break, we'll move into the last part of the day, which will be a workshop on building your MVP. So to really get the most out of this bootcamp, please do remember to stay focused on learning throughout the whole session. If possible, please use the laptop or computer to access the webinar. Your learning will be the most if you do. If you do have any questions for the speakers at any point in time, please put them in the Q&A tab, which I see some of you guys have been using already instead of the chat, because it's easier for us to keep track that way. And especially if the panel has multiple speakers, please put it in the format speaker, then your question, so the moderator knows exactly who the question is for. And yes, with that, let's jump into our first keynote. Our keynote will be presented by Lim Yi-Ling, both the Singapore Country Head of Innovation Partnerships at 500 Startups, and she's also the co-founder of Smarter Me. She'll be sharing on the topic of getting started as a founder. Yi-Ling, over to you.
Thank you so much, Natalie,
No
and thank you
worries.
again for having me here. Let me just share my screen. Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Yi-Ling, and I'll be spending, I guess, the next 20 minutes with you all. So very quickly, what will we be doing the next 20 minutes? I'm going to share a little bit about my journey so far as an entrepreneur, and then I'll give you guys a choice as to what you want me to cover today. We can talk about how you search for an idea, or we can also talk about how to select a really good idea. And I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So first and foremost, who am I? I'm the co-founder of Smarter Me and Young Founders Summit Asia. I'm also the country head for Singapore at 500 Startups, which is one of the world's most active VC fund. I lead up the innovation and partnerships team here in Singapore. And before this, I actually spent 10 years in investment banking. So I've done the whole finance is where the money is, and then decided to leave and pursue my passion kind of route. So a lot of people always ask me, what made you leave banking, right? It's not because of the work-life balance that I was seeking for. It wasn't because of the hours, but really something else that triggered it. And I always believe that a story is best told through an animation. So I will ask you all to just watch my story.
Once there's a successful banker who really loved her job, solving problems, handling clients. It was challenging but fun. She was immersed in a world powered by e-commerce and all those tech stuff. But one day, looking at her daughters, a thought struck her. Kat is an active girl, sociable and craft ninja, while Char loved gadgets and games and tech. Kat asked her mom while doing her homework, "Mommy, why do I have to learn chemistry, geology, and stuff? I want to be a designer." And Char said, "Yeah, I love to create. It's fun to build stuff that doesn't exist." Ling then realized that while the world has changed somehow, education hasn't. We could be learning digital design and entrepreneurship in school, tech skills, thinking skills, but we are not. We are still learning the old way, memorizing facts. Parents' mindset hasn't changed. They still ask us to study law or medicine. And the result? So many young adults feeling lost, not knowing what to do in life. Ling had a thought. If we don't give these kids applicable education that is relevant for the future, if we don't help them understand their interests and their passion, we are going to end up with millions of lost Gen Z. And that was how Smarmy was born, so that these two little girls would grow up to a future they are happy with.
So in case you guys are still wondering, Ling is me. And that video was actually voiced over by my younger daughter. And so really, they were the reasons what made me decide that, hey, while the world has changed, education really hasn't. And I felt then that, did I want to do something that would create impact, of a bigger impact than what I was doing back in banking? And so I created Smarter Me with another co-founder, and our mission is to equip children with a skill set, mindset, heart set to define their own happiness and success for the future. What does this mean? So in all our courses, it's actually anchored by 3 pillars. The first is innovation. At the heart of our program, it's really about problem solving. So students learn how to spot problems, understand the challenges, and identify how to solve it and what the opportunities are. Secondly, entrepreneurship. Our program guides students to turn ideas into sustainable businesses. And more importantly, Wayfinder as well. So we do believe that a lot of us don't actually know our strengths and our skills. And hence, through Project Wayfinder, we actually guide teens to find their strengths, interests, and purpose so that they can pursue a future pathway that's meaningful and fulfilling. And you know what? We teach kids from as young as 6 to as old as 17. And I've seen kids, these young kids as young as 10 years old, come up with really solid business ideas. In fact, this is one example. So this was created by 2 11-year-old girls. This is a front-end mock-up, obviously, but they've realized that a lot of their peers were actually suffering from mental anxiety. And they decided that, hey, what is needed is a mental health app. By the way, you might think that nowadays you've seen a lot of this in the market. This was actually created and envisioned 2 years ago. This was another group of 4 kids, 10-year-olds to 12-year-olds. Their problem that they believe was that, obviously it's not a problem now, but the problem then they felt was that travelers were always losing their bags. So they thought, could they come up with a smart luggage bag that reduces the risk of stolen luggage? And you'll see here in this flash is that they were actually able to calculate the market sizes, how many travelers there are, the cost of creating such a bag, and even creating a simple prototype. So we've ignited a spark, right? And then the question of continuity came about. What happens after the program or the courses that we do? How can we help these kids continue on this journey? And that's when we decided to launch Young Founders Summit, which is an ongoing platform and community. This is online, complete with mentorship. And this culminates in a summit and a competition called Young Founders Summit. And so this is actually our 3rd year. We started in 2018, and every year we have hundreds of students who come together and actually pitch their startup idea. So to give you guys a sense of what it looks like, here we go. So what? Okay, so what have our students actually created at Young Founders Summit? We have Freya, who actually joined us for the past 2 years. She came from India, 13-year-old. She was 12 when she first joined us. And the problem she was trying to solve is, do people not recycle because they don't want to, or because it's inconvenient? And she went on and created a recycler app, which she calls obviously the Uber for recycling. And she was actually awarded the Princess Diana Award of 2020 for her efforts in helping the community in India. You might have seen this from the video, but there is this 10-year-old girl, Allison, who was one of our runner-ups in 2018. I love this story because her idea was actually creating an app that connects the elderly with the youth to combat loneliness. And this was triggered from her own experience. She lived in Singapore, her grandparents lived in the US, and she felt that increasingly her grandparents were getting really lonely, so she wanted to connect them. However, midway through the process, she realized that what she really cared about and why she wanted to be an entrepreneur is because she wanted to build and help elephant sanctuaries. And so she actually went on to publish her own book called Ellie's Elephant. It's available on Amazon. She's been raising funds to build real elephant havens, and she's been conducting book tours and book readings in Thailand and Myanmar. And Alex and Marco are two 16-year-old boys from Singapore who won last year. The problem they were trying to solve is that teenage peers' empathy towards global issues. They were being really frustrated with how their peers were just on BuzzFeed and not actually reading the news. And they said, if these are the future leaders, we're in trouble. And so they created a news platform that gives you a really easy bite-sized way to consume news. And quite honestly, I follow this platform. I follow them on Instagram. I will urge all of you to do the same. I got my latest update on the US elections, on what's happening in Hong Kong, everything through this app primarily. So they're XS News. Well, a year ago, I decided to join 500 Startups, which is the world's leading VC fund that aims to uplift people and economies through entrepreneurship. A lot of people ask me why I joined that and why do I now have 2 full-time jobs? And my answer is this: I think both actually aligns my purpose, which is threefold: founders, female, and future-proofing. Here, through both Smarter Me and 500 Startups, I'm igniting entrepreneurship drive in youth. I'm helping scale up startups grow. I'm advising corporates on innovation and partnering with startups. I'm building a network and platform that connects all the stakeholders in the startup ecosystem. And truthfully, what I really believe in is I feel that I'm inspiring young girls and women in tech and entrepreneurship. So that's a little bit about me. The question I always get asked is, how did this idea come up and what made me take the plunge? Usually for a lot of entrepreneurs, coming up with an idea, there are 2 options. The first is you're acting on an external opportunity or market-driven trend that you've noticed and seen. Or secondly, you act on a gap that you spotted or your interest in your personal life. And here's where I'm going to give you guys the option to actually choose which path we go next. We're going to run a poll right now. So if you see the poll, tell me right now if you have an idea and you want to know if it's a good idea, or if you don't have an idea yet and you want to know how to come up with ideas. So depending on which one you choose, I will cover it appropriately. So if you already have an idea, you want to know if this is really a good idea or not. Or secondly, you have no idea right now, you want to try finding ideas. So I appreciate it if you guys all fill out the poll that's now come up, and then we will take it from there.
All right, if I have Nat here, I'll give you guys maybe like 10 more seconds to fill up the poll. About 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Okay, gosh, this is really balanced. We're looking at a 51% and 49%. Okay, since, well, have an idea and want to know if it's a good idea came up slightly more, I guess I'll have to go with that. And then anyone who wants to find out how to look for ideas, feel free to reach out to me after this. Okay, so for those of you who actually already have a few ideas and are now wondering which one to pursue, what are the 3 things to look at to build a successful idea? Where is the sweet spot for innovation, right? I'll be sharing with you a tool or a framework that is used by innovators as they're finding their way through to find the right fit for their ideas and what the market and the people's needs are. So when we look at the trifecta of ideas, or at least as a VC, I mean, in 500 Startups, we use something a little bit more complicated, and I'll touch upon that towards the end of this session. But put quite simply, there is a method that we use called the trifecta of ideas. Firstly, desirability. Secondly, feasibility. And thirdly, viability. Okay, so desirability is really all about the human need. Is it something that people need and will pay for? Feasibility is really whether you can build it or not. Viability is whether or not you can actually make money and create a sustainable business from it. Now, only when you're at the intersection of all these three is it called innovation, and that's the sweet spot that you want to be in. So don't worry, I'm going to talk through all of it. So first and foremost, when you look at this picture, what kind of desire or need do you think there is? Maybe she wants to be present. Maybe she wants connection, right? Desirability is all about human need. It's actually a really powerful lens to unlock inspiration for what people need and want in their life, because in spite of technological revolution, the underlying drivers that humans being have at the core really hasn't changed. So for example, our desire to be independent, to relate, to sustain ourselves, to make lots of money, to know what's possible, connection that we want, prestige, those will always remain. So I'd like to ask you guys now to actually put it in the chat as well. When you think about human desires, right? What human desires are there? Would love for you to guys to type some examples that I can actually give is belonging. One human desire maybe to belong. It could be savings. People need money still. It could be social contact, especially in times like this. It could be power. Success is a great one, but we can also dive in a little bit to see what does success mean, right? Success means different things to everybody. Yeah, so please type it in the chat and really think about it as a core, even for you personally, right? Why are you here? What do you want to get out of this? Finding a purpose, that's good. Yeah, so ultimately, there are human desires that we all have. Now, desirability really goes back to this, which is people don't want to buy products or services, right? You're not buying something just for the sake of buying it. People buy something because they want something that will help them do a job or achieve a desire. The bigger and the more critical the desire, the more it becomes painful when they don't have it. And that's what you want to create. You want to create a painkiller. So when we ask people, when we see a lot of these ideas come up, we always ask them to think about this. Is your solution a candy, a vitamin, or a painkiller? And which one do you guys think is the one that you guys should be building? So again, would like to see what you guys think that you should be building in the chat. Should you be aiming to build a candy, a vitamin, or a painkiller? And the difference is this, right? A candy is something that's like a good to have. And maybe some people will take it. A vitamin is something that you think people need, right? But maybe they don't know it yet. They think it's not essential. But a painkiller is something that they are suffering from. They don't have a solution to it. They have a job they need done. They don't have a solution for it, and they are dying because they can't find that solution. And yes, absolutely, a painkiller is what it is that you want to build. The second thing is feasibility. Feasibility means what is doable. Can you and your team actually build this? Now, it doesn't mean that you guys have to be the ones building it. It also can mean that if you can't build it yourself, can you find someone else to build it? Do you or others have the knowledge, skills, technology, capabilities to actually build this? I don't know how many of you know the lady in the GIF here. She's Elizabeth Holmes, who is the founder of Theranos. Obviously, she had a really, really great vision, but ultimately, she couldn't deliver what it is that she really wanted to build, which is really this small, tiny way of actually collecting blood samples. She spent money, yeah. I mean, there's a whole lot of topic we can go into this. I personally think that she probably started off with the right intent and couldn't deliver ultimately. Okay, but it's not just about building and technical as well. It's also about connections. Do you or can you get people who has, right? The connections to channels, brands, and partners to get your product and services out to the market. So for example, if you want to build something in the aviation space, right? Technical skills is one, but if you or your team members are unable to access anyone at all in the space and neither of you have the experience in the aviation space, is it really feasible for your team to be building it? That's something else. Because just because you build it doesn't mean people will come. Getting it out there, getting partners and distributors is very, very important. And the third one is viability. Viability means really looking at the money. I was so amused when Adrian actually brought up the K-drama startup here. I was trying to look for that particular scene, but I couldn't find it. To any of you who watch it, there was this scene in, I think, episode 3 or 4, where he created a video after winning quota, and it says he's building this so that we can make lots of money. Now, the truth is that when we build businesses, it has to be sustainable because you do need funding, whether it's to pay yourself salary, to pay your coders salary, to do marketing, right? All this requires funding. So you do need to think about what's our cost to build this? What's our cost to get it out there? Where will you guys get the money? And how will you break even? When you think about breaking even, making the revenue, you're thinking about which customers will actually buy it and how do you pursue them. So when we have the tree, your sweet spot is in the middle, and you want to find that. You want to find an idea that people desire, they really need, it's a pain for them that you're solving, it's technically feasible, and is financially viable, right? When you have something that's just wanted by people and you can build it, but you have no money behind it, it's an inspiration. If you're building something that you can build and you can charge people for it, but people don't really want it, you're just implementing, right? You're just building something for the sake of it. And if you have something that, I think people really need this, and I can see how I can make money out of it, but quite frankly, you can't build it, that's just an idea. And where we want you to get to is the sweet spot of right in the center. So if you already have lots of ideas, this is where I would urge you to actually plot it out on a paper in an Excel sheet and really go through this tree and think about it, whether you have sufficient market size, big enough customer base, potential, and then rank it according to this tree to find the idea that you want to work on. So from 500 Startups' point of view, we actually have developed something called the T6 framework. And when we are screening and selecting and investing in startup, you'll see here that while it's a little bit more complicated, a lot of it still overlaps. First and foremost, what do we look at? The 6 T's, right? The first is technology advancement. So, what's the status of your technology? Do you have any IPs? Have you conducted any validation to your technology? The second one, TAM. So TAM stands for total addressable market, which is really how big can the market be, right? What's the dynamics at play? Team. At an early stage, the team is absolutely critical. How do we know whether you guys are the right guys to actually build this, and should we be backing you? Why do you care about this problem? And then of course, later on at a later stage, we look at traction, right? Do you actually have users, customers who like it? Do we also look at trends? Is this in trend now? Why this? Why now? What's some of the surrounding trends that make this a really good investment opportunity today? And terms is at a later stage, and really for investors to look at the valuation. So ultimately, I hope you guys see how we tie the desirability, feasibility, and viability together with the ways that we actually look at investment. So this is something that we do actually implement. Okay, I am going to quickly, because I think we have a little bit of time, I'm just going to quickly address this to some of you who actually don't have an idea yet. Now, you guys are familiar with this right now, but the other way to look at it, and this is one way that I actually teach my students in Smarter Me, is to, again, take 3 circles with 3 things. A lot of you might be familiar with the concept of Ikigai. So this is, what do you love to do? What is your strengths and your skills? And what is a need in the world? And if you see again, it really overlays with the whole feasibility, viability, and desirability as well, right? So what do you love to do? What's your strengths and skills? And what is a need in the world? Write this down, 3 things that you love to do, okay? Plot it out, write down 3 strengths of yours that you have. Again, plot it down, and then write down 3 community needs that you care about. It could be environment, it could be mental health, it could be about jobs, the changing nature of jobs in the future. Write it down, and when you have all 3 of that, take your sticky notes, make random trios to create an unexpected combinations of loves, needs, and strengths, and then ideate at the intersection of it. Once you place all this together, you take another sticky note and see, hey, what kind of projects can I create that actually taps into all these 3 of my needs? And you can jumble and mix them up together and see what are the ideas that you come up with. So this is actually a really fun exercise that I actually really like. I hope that you guys have time to go and try it out. But now I'm going to leave a last few minutes to see if any of you have any questions for me.
Hi, Yi-Ling. Thank you so much for that. I think I myself learned a lot, and thank you for sharing your founder journey. We do have time for maybe about 1 or 2 questions, and I'll take maybe the yeah, so Daryl has a question. Can you elaborate more about how to find out if the idea is desirable? And he put in bracket human.
Yeah. The only way to find out is to go out and speak to people. So a lot of us fear speaking to the market. We assume that we represent everybody. That's way further from the truth than you can imagine. So the only way to find out is, again, before you even go to the idea, understand what is your idea trying to solve, right? You've come up with a solution now that you think is viable, but what is that solution trying to solve? What problem do you think that is that you're trying to solve? Now, taking that problem, then go out and speak to people and see if they actually really do face this problem. Ideally, if you're thinking about something that's targeting youth, for example, you would want to go out and interview 100 youth, right? And ask them, do you face this problem? That's the first way to understand if that is truly a problem that most people face and not just something that you face. So I'm sorry, but there's no shortcut to this. You have to speak to people.
Yes. Thank you, Yiling. And for our last question, it's from Trini. It's on the Q&A tab. So most startups are tech focused. Would you advise to find a tech co-founder or just outsource the MVP?
I always say that, especially if you're young, right? The best way is that if you can find a tech co-founder. That is way better in the long term than outsourcing the MVP. Again, MVP also doesn't mean that you actually have to build it out. There are ways to do, a fake door MVP that you can actually trial as well without actually building anything yet. But if possible, highly encourage you to find a tech co-founder.
All right, thank you so much, Yiling. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. But yes, please do reach out to Yiling if you'd like to follow up with her via LinkedIn, or go to all the different social media that Smartemy has and check out their products. Please do remember to always reach out respectfully and professionally, since they have very kindly given you their LinkedIn. Yes, and thank you so much, Yiling, and we'll catch you hopefully next time. Yes.
Thank you.
And
bye.
Yes, and let's jump into our very next panel on customer discovery and development. We'll be hearing from James, Brandon, as well as Felix, and they'll be sharing on their expertise on customer discovery and development. And this panel will be moderated by Jelena from Scape. So over to you, Jelena.
Hello everyone. So sorry, Nat, I think you need to enable our video. Hello everyone. Yeah, so good afternoon. I think we have all our panel over here. Just let me do a quick check. Okay, for the panelists, I will need you to video on if you are okay with it. Yay, hi James. Great to see you. All right, okay. So yeah, good afternoon to all. My name is Jelena and I'm from Skip Entrepreneurship team, and I'll be moderating the first panel session for this Skip Startup Hack Bootcamp organized in partnership with Amazon Web Services. So before I start, I just want to remind you all, if you have any burning question for our panel over here, right, do click it away on our Q&A function so that I can see it clearer instead of the chat function. Indicate the speaker name followed by the question itself. So we do have really short time to ask this panelists some questions on today's topic, right? As you can see it on the screen, customer discovery and development. So starting your own business can be daunting, right? There are definitely more questions than answers. I mean, talk about how do you uncover unmet needs in the market? How do you discover your customer wants? What do you decide to build? I mean, and as Yiling rightly mentioned, speak to the market, you need to have like sufficient market size, and how do you want to build on it? So these are some questions that you have to ask before starting up your own businesses. And all of these bring back to the first step, right? Customer discovery. So there's nothing more impactful on the early stage of business than truly understanding the people and businesses you are building. So, we have wonderful panel over here with incredible wealth of experience for sure. So I think joining us today, we have James from ArcLab, Brandon from vSense, Felix from Amazon Web Services. So thank you all for joining us today. Let's have a quick introduction. So what do you do in a startup? We'll start with James from ArcLab.
Thanks, Jelena. And thank you, Scape and AWS, for having me today. I think it's really a great pleasure to learn from experts like Brandon and Felix and share what we've learned at ArcLab. By way of background, I'm James. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ArcLab. ArcLab is a mobile learning SaaS platform, and we empower organizations everywhere to easily create, distribute, and track training for rank and file workers. We're backed by VCs in the US and Singapore, and we're actually proud to be also part of the Pioneer AWS Asia Pacific cohort of Head Start. So head tip to AWS.
Awesome. And then can we have Brandon also?
Hi, how are you? And hi to the rest of the panel. My name is Brendan O'Shaughnessy. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of vSense. vSense are a Singaporean headquartered visual AI company. So we've been around for 8 years. And we provide visual AI-powered technology and solutions to retailers, brands, and marketplaces. So visual product search, recommendations, product tagging. Global customer base, still growing, and still a lot more to achieve.
Awesome. I like how future visionary you are. So let's also have Felix to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. Hi, panelists. My name is Felix. I'm from the Amazon Web Services team, managing the AWS Educate program. And essentially, my role is to really push the program out to educational institutions and innovate and create new strategies to help countries in terms of workforce development and so on as well. In terms of the background history, 15 years in the industry, have been in sales and non-sales role, tech and non-tech roles. So it's kind of a good mix over the past 15 years. But happy to be here and to share some inputs as well.
Awesome, great. You see, they started off very well. So I'm already pumped up for the question. Okay, let's get into it. So to kick off today's topic, what is customer discovery to you? Maybe we can have Brandon to answer this question.
Sure. Look, I think understanding your customer first is critical. I think Elaine talked a bit about it on the last keynote, and it's, you know, what is it for us? It's a combination of subject knowledge, market research, collaboration, and, you know, engagement and discussion with customers and prospects. It's essential for any business, and you can never start it too early, and it never stops. For us, I said we're an 8-year-old company, but our customers are very different. We work with small startups, companies who are using our technology to power a proof of concept to attract investors to a proposition that they have. We work with some of the biggest luxury brands, leisure brands in the world, some of the biggest retailers and marketplaces in the world, and they've all got very different needs. And if there's anything we've learned over 8 years, is that you've got sort of three things. For us anyway, you've got three things. You've got technology, you've got products, and you've got solutions. And if you take that, your core, for us anyway, for technology, it's the core of what we do. It's very complex, it's very advanced, but it leads to great products, and the technology as well can be used in many, many different use cases. But you really only know that when you engage with customers. And what we have found is, where we think our tech is best fit, is a best fit for a customer in a particular proposition, our customers educate us often differently. And we've had, customers innovate using our technology that, has opened our eyes to, some of the benefits and some of the use cases that our technology can be used in. So I think for me, customer discovery is really about, where's your fit? How do you evolve to that? And how do you evolve beyond that? And sometimes the answers to those questions don't come from within, they come from outside.
Yeah, I think very succinct answers. And I really like when you talk about doing market research, engaging the customers. And really, I think your last line wins it all, where you fit and evolve from that, right? And I think the starting point is always the hardest, right? Like really, which market am I going to serve, or what do you want to do? And essentially what Elaine's also mentioned earlier on, it's what's your strength and your needs, as well as what you love. So I think, how does one start the journey for customer discovery? So maybe we can have James to share about this.
Sure, thank you, Jelena. Well, Arc Lab is in day one of our journey, so I must say that we're still learning, and I can't tell you and the audience how to be successful yet. But I can tell you how to fail, right? It's very simple, right? You go and build your product, and then you go and try to find the market. Right? In the words of Phua Chu Kang, or at least I think it's him, confirm die, right? So how should you do it is obviously the other way around. I think Elaine spoke about it in her keynote, and Brandon had talked about it just now as well. So you always start with the pain, you start with a problem that needs to be solved, and you kind of have a hypothesis of what it is, and the current way of doing things is not cutting it. So before starting Arc Lab, this was 2 years ago, our journey was I went to talk to 50 companies first, no product, nothing built, just 5 PowerPoint slides with a hypothesis and asking a few questions. So our hypothesis was that as innovation quickens and as our attention spans shorten, the need for continuous education and training to stay relevant is more urgent than ever. So our questions were, what was the best way to do it? What was the pain points that the organizations were currently adopting to solve it? And what was the best way that we could implement a solution to help them to solve their problems? So we narrowed on a few learning points, and then we took 6 weeks. We built a simple proof of concept, brought it back to the people who kindly took those interviews with us, and we literally went out to 50 companies, right? And after the POC was used, we realized that, hey, this could work. And we took in the data, the usage, and then we took another 4 months, we built an MVP. And then that was also when we got accepted to the AWS at start as well. And we distilled our learnings to build Arc Lab. So I think to really answer your question, like what Brandon and Elaine had said before, always start with a hypothesis, go out, talk to the user, and then go back to build the product. If you do it this way, that's something that you just need to do over and over and over again, because it would constantly change. And building this proof of concept at first brings us to the MVP. I saw a question what MVP is. MVP is most viable, minimum viable product. Then after that, you go on and you keep refining and iterating. But it always starts with talking to the user and testing our hypothesis, and then going backwards to solve it with a solution.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, right? There's always like reiteration after reiteration. So definitely a lot of testing of products, and also testing whether this is something that the market would want, right? And I think, Felix, you have worked with different startups and different organizations also, right? So I think like over the experience that you have working with this group of people, like, do you think customer discovery should always come before creation of products? Because like it's always like a tricky question, right? Do you create the product first, or do you exactly know the customer discovery first?
So I always feel that data points are always very important, and especially in current world today, everyone is always talking about data being king. And having that research piece to really discover the demand of an idea or a startup that you're trying to do is really very crucial. I mean, I've seen a lot of, I've actually had some friends who actually were so determined to replicate businesses across, like from overseas to bring it back to Singapore. But they always tend to fail because they don't really see or try to research in terms of what is the actual demand in Singapore itself, because every countries would have different cultures and different needs. So I think having that discovery phase, having that research piece before you actually start developing the product would always be good. I think just like what James mentioned, having that hypothesis and going around speaking to 50 companies, gathering feedback, it helps a lot, because it helps you to decide, like, where should you position your business, what kind of solutions do you want to work at, and what is the main problem that you're trying to fix as well with your solution.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, at the end of the day, again, it boils back to the discovery phase and testing out your hypotheses. I think it's really interesting how there's a lot of synergy in the answers that you have provided among all the panelists over here. And I think what I would want to understand a bit more also, Brandon, I think I read your case studies in some of your, in the website, vSense, right? Maybe you want to share with us a bit more about vSense, and like, how do you enable this customer discovery process among your clients? I think that's very important, right? For them to know the journey it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jelena. Look, what we do, we provide, like I said, visual search and recommendation solutions to our customers, but it's all powered by our visual AI capabilities. But as I touched upon earlier, and going back to the question, kind of link it to that as well, it's not the only way to start. vSense came out of NUS. vSense came out of, here's a technology. Now, how can we use it? And there was some initial hypothesis around which, at that time, I think we used a company called Closet here in Singapore. It's actually, Roger Yun is the CEO there, and he's also the vSense chairman. And that sort of helped them shape a hypothesis, from the technology to come out of the lab, and from there it evolved. But we probably took several, the long way around to finding a stronger market fit. And like I said, that always continues. And today, we've over the last, I joined the company about 18 months ago here, and the focus was to change where we've been and develop, a bigger, more scalable future. And part of that strategy was to find a different type of customer, or go after those customers who we believed were the strongest fit, for our product. And when we started off, our co-founder Li Guangda is from China. He's our CTO co-founder, so he's the brains behind the operation. And it was natural when we started. We went to China. We found customers in China. We developed relationships and market development and learning there. But we also, our CEO traveled the world and went to South America, North America, Europe, and picked up very early on their cycle some really, really big customers, who were really big backers for us. And the point is this: you start off with something and it will evolve. It will always evolve. It should evolve, and you should look for it to evolve. You should embrace that. And for us, we never stop asking customers for feedback. And we also ask our customers for feedback. So we're about to publish our 2020 consumer survey, which is a general consumer survey for how you shop online compared to in store, where visual search compared to text search, how you would use this kind of technology and product set. So we talk to our customers, and we try to engage with our customers, consumers as well. So we go the whole hog. But for us, with our customers, it's very much around, and it's been harder this year, I'll be very honest, because of COVID. I'm normally on a plane somewhere. I haven't traveled since February. I'm getting itchy feet. But we love nothing better than to go into Europe and sit down with our customers, our innovation teams or product teams, and sit with them and better understand what they're planning for the next 6, 9, 12 months in their business. And how do we tap into that? How do we align to that? What can we do to help them achieve success? And that kind of collaboration and engagement helps us learn more and more about our customers, helps open up more stakeholder functional conversations across our customers' organizations. So we find new ways to use our technology and our product set in those customers. And that all comes back to what gets developed here in Singapore, and how we elevate our product, how we develop solutions, how we choose partnerships, to help basically find a better, stronger, stickier fit within our customers and in market in general. So I think it's all about engagement. And whether you have customers or whether you're looking to develop a hypothesis, you've got to get out there. James touched upon it. You've got to go out there and understand what people want. And it will change, but at least give yourself that confidence that, right, you've got a target to aim for. And if you execute well, you're going to land broadly in the right space. From there, you build traction. And I think that's what we've done over 8 years. And we continue to do it. We're not at the finish line yet.
That's really wonderful. I think at the end of the day, it's just keep it going, right? Like how you ask your customer to ask your customer, and then it continues again. You gather all the data points and then evolve it further and further. I think that's great. And the next question that I have, which aligns back to that point, is like, getting back the data and all that. So I think for James, as a founder yourself, right? I think what are some tips and tricks that you could provide to some of the aspiring founders over here, or founders themselves? Because besides getting the data, besides even failing multiple times just to get to know what your product wants, the services that they have to cater to. So yeah, so share with us.
Well, I think the first thing to do is to aim not to fail. I mean, we talk a lot about glorifying failure, and I'll give my take on it, right? Failing is actually tough, right? And you shouldn't aim to fail. Obviously, if you can succeed from the bad, you should. But what we should do is to learn from failure. If you are unfortunate enough to fail, and most of us will be unfortunate enough to fail, you learn from the failure. You don't go around telling people you failed 99 times. That's not a mark of success. That's nothing to be happy about. But if you learn from one of the failures and you then went on to do something better, I think that's what we should be, I guess, aiming for. So don't read and believe the startup Kool-Aid about failing is cool, and that believe me, it's no fun to fail, especially if you have limited resources and you have family money on the stake or whatever, right? It's not. But I think what is important to do is to find people to learn from, experiences to learn from, and ultimately be aware of what's going around you. So figure out what problems there are to solve. And even if your life is really great, I mean, that's cool, but go around and see what's not working in the community, and what problems that you can solve, and ultimately learn skills that can help you to solve problems around the world, in your neighborhood, the things around you. I think these are small steps that you can do. Don't try to go all big, and if you are too big picture and too, I guess, airy-fairy about it, then it's not a good way to start. Especially if you're young and you don't have that much experience in the world. That's fine, because we all have to start somewhere, and just be aware of what's around you in the world. Get out in the community and keep working hard. And I think one thing that's pretty cool that you can do is talk to people that you know, talk to people you trust, someone just a little bit ahead of you. If you are somebody in poly or IT or university, somebody just a couple of years ahead of you, and then speak to them, their working experiences, etc. What are the problems they're solving? How did they get to where they are? And the other thing that you could do is probably intern in startups. That's a good way to get experience. And if you are, I guess, willing to roll up your sleeves and work hard, it's something that I think you will be on the right track. I mean, we are always looking for interns. If you want, you can write to us, and Hack Lab is always promise all guys and girls who work with us, you will always ship something. So that's something that I think could be a good way.
That's really great advice over there. And over here, I think in the Q&A chat function, we do have quite a number of questions coming through. And just on that note, right, James, I think when we talk about data point, and we talk about starting out, getting your hypothesis out, there's this one question. Do the panelists use a design thinking framework in your companies, and how does the model apply across your company practices? I think design thinking is one of the framework. But what's your thoughts on it? I think James or Brandon might be able to answer this question. Yeah.
Do you want to go, James?
Sure. Well, I think design thinking is a framework, and Brandon, please add on after I give my spiel, which may be wrong, right? I think every day you just need to test and retest your hypothesis, right? Whether you are solving a customer pain, is it something that is working? Is it not working? Look at the usage. If you have a chat widget that you put into your app or whatever, make sure that you are receiving that feedback, and then you go back into your product and see whether or not that product is working as you expected it to do. And I think I'll share also our experience as we're a B2B company, business to business. So our customer and our user may not be the same person. And in fact, we are a mobile learning startup. So we sell to companies who create training for staff. So the user, which is the rank and file worker, is not necessarily the same person who makes the purchase decision as well. And so you need to kind of go back to, you need to solve the pain of the user, but you also need to solve the pain of the customer, and they may be different people. So I think that's I guess some inputs that I could give. But yeah, definitely design thinking, because it's non-linear, right? You gotta empathize with the person's problem. You gotta work out a problem statement. You define it first, then you ideate, and then you prototype it and you test, and it just keeps going on. It's a loop, and it never stops. So that's my little take, and I think I'll leave it to Brandon's expert views.
Thanks, James. Look, we use a range of approaches, but regardless of the framework, and to be honest, different. Your team. We're a 100-person strong team now, so we're quite a sizable company, and you refresh your approach. When new people come in, they bring their expertise, they bring their experience, they bring their frameworks that they work well within. So we don't have one single approach that we adopt. One of the key things we do, though, is we always try to use data to inform us. And for a company like ours, we process a lot of data. So whilst my job is to sell our technology and products to retailers and brands around the world who license our technology in their domains, our technology has also been integrated with Huawei, Samsung, Oppo, Vivo, and LG smartphones. So we're processing close to 500 million product searches every single month. So we process a lot of data, and that data gives us great insights. And we try to use those insights to inform how impactful our technology is in one product over another, or how we can develop new products or services from what we're learning. And I think that's an important point, right? If you have data within your business, and data can be test data, feedback data, or it can be data that's processed that gives you, analytical insight. But whatever framework from a development approach you're taking, always try to keep it informed and iterate. James talked about it. It's always got to change and evolve. So that iteration is important. So whatever powers that, in the best possible way for your business, approach it, take it, run with it.
Great inputs there. I think there's quite another questions coming through. So I would like to answer this to the panel. So I think Felix could take this one. Talking about customers and talking about people to talk to, right? So for B2C ideas, before you have actual customers, how do you find customers to speak to? I've tried speaking to people on the street, but Singaporeans tend to be guarded and skeptical. Any advice? And also, I think it links to another question posted by Kai Yang. Kai Yang. In terms of, am I getting this right? By Trini, sorry. Yeah, so they're talking about customers, right? How do you reach out to these people, especially when they are not so upfront in being asked questions? So yeah, Felix.
Yep. So I think pulling back on two of the companies I've worked in, I think one is Rakuten Marketing and the other is Delphi Digital. So that's a digital consulting agency. I was actually appointed like a commercial director where I had to go and start selling the solution to customers. And it was very tough because as a solution itself, it was very well known. Like not many people actually know about some of the services or some of the products that were available. So the way I approached it is that, nowadays it makes it even easier because you have platforms like LinkedIn, whereby you can always turn on the sales navigator and start filtering out the kinds of customers that you're looking for. But then again, it's not 100% return where you'll get the kind of response that you require as well, because at times there will be queries or delayed responses and so on. And we can't be expecting everyone to be on LinkedIn 24/7, right? It's almost like you being on Facebook 24/7 as well. So aside from that, the other opportunity is to always go for networking activities as well. So sometimes you could have events, events like this, for example, which potentially could be held physically to actually start networking with people and so on. Even after this event, I think as participants, you can start connecting with each and every one of the participants here and build up that network. Right, and that will essentially give you a very good leeway or leverage as well. But what really helps is that once you build these networks up, and if you really have a very good relationship with all these people, your network goes a very long way. I'll give you one example. Like when I was in Thailand setting up the business, it was really more of knowing someone in the bank And then this person was jumping around the different banks, and essentially every single bank will start doing projects with me as well for the company. And because of that relationship, that I always encourage people to always think about something called empathy. So always have that applied to the customer, because you need to always understand what's the problem that they're facing right now and how do you actually start solving that problem with them with what you currently have. So that's how I would usually go around to start building up the network to find the right kind of customers also.
Yeah, I think great point there about making connection, and especially, programs like these, the whole purpose is to network, right? So like, you have really great panels over here giving really great advice. So, if you want to connect to any one of them, do connect to them on LinkedIn. Also, I think just to quickly wrap up, I know there are some questions that we unfortunately don't have time to answer, but we are always open to have to share with the speakers, and if like they are able to give us answers, and then we can always provide you to you after event itself. So I think to just wrap up this whole panel session is that, starting business, it is glamorous as it is, and especially with successful entrepreneurs like Brandon, James, and Felix working with AWS. But it can be daunting with challenges, and like what James has rightly pointed out, if you fail, learn from it. And let that not be deterrence, but rather a driving factor for you to work on constantly improving your product, or improving how you manage your customers, empowering them. So yeah, great sharing, everyone. And to the audience, thank you for joining us. It's only at the start of our bootcamp, so do remember to do up all those courses via our AWS Educate, and also just quickly pointed 3 factors to remember. Do the research, make connection, and always align yourself to great people like our panel speakers over here, and start tackling all the problems you need to do up your startup. So I think I'll pass on to Nat to take over.
Yes, thank you so much, Ju, and thank you, Brendan, James, and Felix, for your amazing insights. I'm pretty sure everyone learned a lot. And thank you for the questions as well. Panelists, if you'd like to continue to answer the questions, you can stay on, and you can actually type via the Q&A as well. So that works too if it's a little harder getting back to the attendees right after. As always, please feel free to connect to the speakers via LinkedIn. You can reach out to them. Please be respectful and professional when reaching out to them though. And yes, moving on to our next part of the program, I'm just going to share my screen, and yeah, you guys can drop off your videos. Thank you so much. Okay, let me just share my screen. And yes, so to help you really navigate the AWS Educate platform better, we'll have a walkthrough of the platform from Valerie from the AWS team. Just to keep a note, if you would like our shirts as well as a certificate, you will need to complete the startup module. So Valerie will kind of walk through how to access it and all those fun stuff. So yes, passing over to you, Valerie. I'll just stop my screen share and then you can go.
All right, so I'll begin sharing my screen now. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'll also put this link in the chat box as well. Let me see how I can get back to the main. It's okay. I think I will put it in the chat box later. So I'll be walking you through what is AWS Educate about, and how you can access all the materials which are available to you for free as a student or as a young entrepreneur. So cloud computing benefits many industries, and it's the industry 4.0 right now. So to give you an example, when we do our hackathons, there are students that came up with projects that really impact and benefit the real society. So for example, one of the students, they actually built a digital face recognition medicine dispenser. So instead of going to the pharmacy, having to wait throughout so many long queues, you can just scan your face and the system will recognize you and dispense the medicine like all within less than a minute or so. So that's the power of cloud computing, and that's why a lot of schools, have started getting onboarded onto AWS as well. So let me put this into full screen mode as well. Just give me a while, it's slightly laggy. All right. Yep. So at AWS Educate, our tagline is to teach tomorrow's cloud workforce today, which is a very good initiative brought by Amazon Web Services, to develop a portal for all the upcoming cloud talents, all the students, so that they can start learning from a very young age, right? So as you can see on the screen, the cloud computing industry is really getting larger and larger by the day, and 90% of the companies are already on the cloud. So we are trying to help more companies move onto the cloud as well, which is why there are a lot of jobs on the cloud, but there is not really a lot of students or a lot of people who are skilled with the right skills, right? So to match this supply and demand gap, we actually have this AWS Educate initiative where you can start to learn at your own time, own target for free. So as you can see, cloud computing is one of the second top skills that most companies actually need. Right, so there's a lot of jobs, as you can see. There's really a growing demand by the day, and we really is trying to get more students to learn about cloud computing. So AWS Educate tailors for students starting from a very young age, from like maybe 12 to 14, all the way, you can never stop learning. So even if you're in the 30s or if you're in the 40s, feel free to sign up for an account and you can begin learning. So for this K-12 account, it's a very animated version, which will be suitable for you if you are a startup and you're thinking of how you can guide younger students to learn more about the cloud computing. And all these courses, they actually have an animation version to teach the students about what is the cloud, how can they explore concepts like algorithms, programming, cybersecurity, and then they can go on to collect the different badges available. Of course, we also have the advanced badges for people to learn as well, which is all these cloud career pathways. So these are more, I would say, niche, because, for example, cybersecurity specialists will really delve very deep into what is cybersecurity, how they can actually program the data or their system in some sort of way that will prevent people from hacking into the system. So all this is more niche, and it will take a longer duration for you to learn, but you can learn it at your own time, own target, right? And then for badges, badges is more generic. So for example, Alexa is like a smart home device where you can control, your home using your voice if you connect the different services together, the different devices together. Right, so it can be linked with IoT, and then Amazon Sumerian is more of 3D, AR, VR, and then Deep Racer is more of machine learning in a fun virtual racing car format, right? For RoboMaker, it's more about robotics, etc. So we have quite a lot of different badges, right? And the most exciting thing that a lot of students tell us is that there is the USD $100 credits in your account to try out the AWS services. So I will be showing you how you can access the AWS Management Console later, right? So without further ado, let's get started. Right, so when I give you the link later, you'll be brought to this sign up page where you can fill in your school or your institution name. If you have already graduated, don't worry, you can put the institution that you last graduated from, and then your country, your first name, last name, your email. We highly recommend to use an institution email, but if you have your personal email, it's all right as well. We have made the bypass verification for that. And then graduation month, graduation year, your birth month, birth year. So birth year will determine whether you will get a K-12 account or whether you will get a normal account. So like I mentioned, K-12 account is more for the younger students. So of course, if you're a startup and you want to learn what's the difference, the different learning styles, you can feel free to sign up for 2 different accounts using a varied birth year, right? So this promo code is very important because this is how we give you the US $100 credits. If not, usually it will be about 75, right? So I'll be showing you how to navigate a platform right now. So once you actually register, they will prompt you to verify your account, and you will need to click verify before we can make an approval on our back end. But the approval will take about 1 to 2 working days. And if your account gets rejected, don't worry, because we can always make the approval. So you just need to write into either Scape, or you can write into us. I will place the emails in the chat section as well, and then we will get your account approved later. Right, so once you log in, this is your dashboard interface. So there's portfolio, career pathway, badges, jobs, as well as the AWS account. So for portfolio wise, this is where you update your profile, right? So for example, your resume, for example, are you looking for a job, etc. So this share profile with recruiters by default will be turned off for privacy reasons, but we encourage students, or we encourage, anyone to just turn it on in case they are looking for a job, because if you turn it on, then recruiters who post their jobs in this job board will be able to search for your profile, and if your profile matches what they are looking for, then they can actually contact you directly, which is why if you are looking for a job or internship, feel free to turn this on. Right, so this is where your progress is all captured, and then this is where you can upload your resume. And for this digital credentials is quite important, because when you go to Scape to redeem your shirt and your certificate, you will need to show that you completed the startup batch. So this is how you can actually access the portfolio package here. Right. So this is the career pathways. As mentioned, these are all more niche. So let's take a look. For example, if I choose data integration specialist, I can choose a language. For now, these are all the languages supported, and I click start. Give it some time to load. Now, yeah, it's loading. So you can see this whole, so most of the career pathways and badges tends to come with quizzes to have a quick checkpoint on whether you understand the content or not. And then assignments is depending on which badges and which career pathway. So not all badges will have this assignments folder. So assignment is like a mini project to show that you have really tried out the service, or you have learned about this particular career pathways or badges. Right, so it's getting a little bit slow. I think my home internet is not so strong. Time while it loads. So I'll be sending over a guide in the follow-up email, so you can refer on the interface on how it looks like. It's very simple. Our platform is very friendly in that sense. And for badges, as mentioned, it's more generic, right? So for jobs, give me a while. It's taking some time to load. Yep, so you can actually search the jobs. For example, if you want to be a solution architect, you can just type solution architect, and you can search by country as well. So you'll be able to see the different companies listing their jobs on our AWS Educate job board. Right, so to access the management console, you can actually click on AWS account, and you'll see the number of credits that you are remaining with and when is the credits going to expire. So for me, I'm supposed to have 100, but because I have utilized some of the services, that's why I'm left with 90. And then the credits will be renewed on a yearly basis, right? So you can click on AWS Educate Starter Account and it will lead you to Vocarium, which is the middle ground page, right? So after you log on to Vocarium, you can click AWS Console, which will direct you back onto the AWS Management Console to try out the different services. Yeah, so this is the AWS Management Console. And as you can see, we have a lot of different services for you to try out. Of course, there might be some restrictions with a student account, but feel free to check out what are the list of services supported here. Okay, so without further ado, I think I will go back to the slides. I still have one last slide that I would like to share with you. Yeah. So it's about this. I won't waste the time going full screen, but essentially, if you would like to get industry certified, there's this certificate that you can actually take, which is called the Cloud Practitioner Certificate. It's the most foundational certificate in the AWS list of certificates, right? So these are the different pillars that are tested, and it's about a 90 minutes exam where there is about 60 questions. So you will need about 70% to pass the exam, right? So it costs 100 USD, but we are able to give you this 50% CPC discount voucher issued by X Voucher. So if you are keen on taking this industry certification, feel free to let us know in the follow-up email where you can indicate your interest in a form, and then we will issue you with the voucher and the guide on how to redeem your vouchers. So I'm overrunning a little bit, and I hope I have answered most of your questions about how the AWS Educate platform works. Feel free to leave your questions in the Q&A if you still need any help with that, right? And I'll pass my time back on to Natalie. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Valerie. Let me just take it back and share my screen. Yes, so I think as Valerie mentioned, if you do have any more questions with regards to the AWS Educate platform, please put them in the Q&A. The AWS team will start to answer all your questions and such. And don't worry if you didn't catch up with any of the information. All the links to register, the emails that you can send your queries to, and all the link for the X voucher, the CPC voucher, will all be in the email that will be sent to you after tomorrow's session. So don't worry about it. You will still get all the information that Valerie just shared. And with that, we'll start on our break that will end at 4:30. Please be back on the dot because we'll start on our next workshop, which is building your MVP. I know there are a lot of questions about MVP. I know there's currently one in the Q&A as well. So yes, please be back for that session. Use this time to, recharge, grab a drink, grab a snack, anything you need, and we'll see you then. And yes, remember to drop any questions in the Q&A if you do. And I'll see you in a bit. right, guys, we'll be starting in about a minute or so. So yes, please come back to your computer, your laptop soon. Thanks. See you in a bit. Alrighty. Okay, I hope everybody is back. Once again, if you haven't registered for your AWS Educate account, please head to the link. It's in chat. Just scroll up and down. You should be able to see it. Or you can just scan this QR code and you'll be able to access it via your devices. So just moving straight on to our program, we'll be having a workshop now on building your MVP conducted by Ivan Gunn, EdTech Technical Program Manager at Amazon Web Services. So yeah, just really quick, just passing on to you, Ivan. I hope you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. Give me a minute.
Awesome. Okay, no worries. Hi, Ivan.
Am I on video yet?
Yes, you are. I'm just stopping my share so you can pull up your slides.
Awesome. Give me a minute. Is that all right?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Fantastic. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our workshop over here on building your MVP. Here, what I really like to do is to try and keep this interactive. Building an MVP is not very difficult, but it is also not something you typically do in a 40-minute session. But I think it's also important for us to get a sense of how you can build your MVP really quickly. So just let me introduce myself while I guess we are possibly waiting for people also to come back from the break, just in case, you know, people come back late. All right. My name is Ivan and I work with AWS and I'm an EdTech Technical Program Manager at AWS. So you can see my screen, that's also my email. Let me just tell you some fun facts about myself. So I started my career as a teacher, teaching chemistry. So if I have moved from that into building on AWS, if I can do that, you definitely can do that too. So it's really not difficult. We have a lot of different courses on Educate for you to jump on and learn how to build your first cloud application. So today what we're going to do is we're going to spend a bit of time to understand what it means by MVP and how you can build your MVP. Now, in order for us to really enjoy this workshop, this is not a lecture, it is a workshop. I would really like to just lay down some house rules to make it easier for everyone to have a great interaction. All right. So you can, at any time, put up your questions in the Q&A. I can see them. I have a multi-screen setup, so I will try and answer some of those questions where possible. I will ask some questions along the way, and I would love it if you could respond to them on the chats, such that, you know, we can have a great discussion going on. That way, this is going to be a lot more interactive for you, and I think it will be a lot more fun for the next 45 minutes. Okay? All right. So if everything's okay, drop me an okay on the chat so I know you're here with me. Awesome. I see a couple of people. Fantastic. Great. So MVP, right? MVP is not most valuable player. It is something else. So we really want to find out what that is, right? So what is an MVP, right? We know the name. Can someone just shout out in the chat, you know, what exactly MVP is? What is an MVP? What do you understand by the term MVP? Minimal viable product, most valuable product. Yes, all right. Generally, MVP, we call it a minimum viable product. So that is generally the first product you seek to build when you want to find a product market fit. What is a product market fit? All right. A product market fit is when you put that product out to the market, to people who potentially will use your product. You want to know whether they want to use your product or not. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of startups have is that they build a product that no one wants to buy. And they spend a lot of resources building that product. So in order for you to not waste time building that product, you want to build a minimum viable product such that you bring it to market and then you get feedback from the market. It is like a science experiment. You take a product, you put it out, and you see how your market responds to it. So many startups actually use MVP to scale their business and then know what works, what doesn't work. And as they go along, they actually change their product. Right? So if you aren't embarrassed by the first version of the product you shipped a bit too late. So what you want is to have a good balance of shipping a good enough product, all right, and then taking the feedback from your users and then iterate on a better version of the product. Don't hide in some basement somewhere, spend half a year building that product and then bring it to market. That is called shipping too late. So you really don't want to do that. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work with you guys also, sort of a workshop, right? To have a building of an MVP. So we're going to actually build an MVP for a chatbot, for a teacher to retrieve information, from a school admin system about campus opening hours. We are actually going to build that chatbot in less than 40 minutes. All right, and it's perfectly possible. So I just want you to keep this scenario at the back of our head such that you get a sense of what we're going to do. So generally, we call MVP minimal viable product, but there are many different terms and different approaches to this depending on your situation. We call it the minimum X product. Okay, it could be the minimal viable product, minimum usable product, minimal lovable product, or even a minimal testable product. What are some of these differences? And why are they potentially important, right? MVP, a minimal viable product, is used to test different dimensions of your product. Right? A minimal usable product brings the product to your users or people who will potentially buy your services such that they can actually use it and then tell you about it. Right? A minimally lovable product is something that you want to make it such that people like it and that they potentially can switch from a competitor, right? A testable product is really about testing out, for example, business models. Airbnb, for example, use this to great effect. They basically put up a website and ask people, look, would you rent out a house and will you rent someone's home for a home vacation? And they tested it. So first, what do you think our minimal viable product in our chatbot, what should it have? What should it be able to do, right? So I'd like you to just put in the chat, what do you think you must be able to do it? Okay, I see one, give a response. That makes sense, right? Return information, right? Very simple, but you must do it. What else? Timestamp of message. Do you need a timestamp? You need to be able to access data, store, retrieve information. Very good. You guys need to think more basic. Interpret the questions. Yes, fantastic. That's very good. This is a chatbot. What must it be able to do? Open, correct. Yes, you must be able to chat. You must be able to type, right? So minimally, you must have a way to interface with your chatbot. It could be to chat. It could be voice, for example, right? Post messages, fantastic. So let's think about this, all right? We need our chatbot to be able to chat. We need to send a message and that chatbot must be able to return a message to us, a response to us. That's minimal, all right? Do we need this chatbot to have nice background and ability to insert pictures? What do you think? No? Not yet. Very good. Not yet is a great answer. So what we call the fidelity of an MVP depends on how you know your users. What is important to them for them to adopt, all right, your product. For example, if you are building a chatbot for very, very young kids, for example, you really want to have something that's very nice to attract them, right? So these are some of these things we want to think about. Must it give useful responses all the time? What do you think? Yes? Useful as in, that means whatever I give, it must be 100% correct all the time, I guess. Maybe, no, depends. Very good. So if you are thinking of it this way, every response must be 100% accurate, right? For this MVP, that's not realistic, right? It's okay, right? So giving back useful responses most of the time for this MVP, I think is more than good enough. We don't need it to be 100% accurate most of the time, right? Must it be usable on the phone and I meant to use PC rather than internet. Must it be usable on the phone? Because obviously, you know, if you use it on the phone, you design it for a phone versus designing it for computer. Chrome browser is very different, right? Ideally, yes. All right. Now, this is where we come and think about ideas of trade-offs. If you want to build something that is usable on the phone, you may need more time. And as the product manager, as someone designing your MVP, you really want to think about how do I trade off between how fast I send to market versus how many features I have. This is what we call a feature trade-off, right? So those are just some basic things. What about voice control? What about voice control, right? Do you need to have it in MVP? Nope. All right, I see Ivan, my namesake, saying that is no. Phone app is expensive. It is. It is expensive to develop, but I'm going to show you guys some easy ways to do it as well. All right, not until the teachers need it. So I would say for voice control, I would put it on the feature map, but I wouldn't put it on an MVP yet. But it's something that is very easy for us to implement as well. You actually have that when you do AWS Educate. We have Alexa. It's amazing. All right. So you want to first ask yourself, what is the minimum feature set you want your user to have when you use your product? Right? So these are some of those things that you really want to think about. It's very important. So just going to have a quick mental exercise. If you guys are going to build an electric scooter, very big thing now, what are some of the minimum feature sets you need to have on your electric scooter in order to build this MVP to go out and test? Battery, yeah, very important. Must be able to move, which means wheels, very good, right? You need wheels. No wheels, no electric motorbike. Brake, yes, right? Handle, very good. Because this I think are some of those basic things. Circuits, yes. Okay, good try for the loudspeakers. I think that you don't really need loudspeakers. I get what you mean by that. Engine, you don't really need an engine, but you need something to move it. An electric engine would be great. EDM songs, motor, yes, a motor would be good. All right, so these are some of these ideas that we get to really think about features in an MVP, right? You really want to think about what do you want in your minimal viable product. You can always build more features into your MVP by having more features. The problem is you are going to spend more time building. So what we typically do in an MVP development is what we call product development iterations. All right, you spend a time to design, build, and deploy, and then you measure. Then you have version 1 of the product. And then you have version 2 of the product, and version 3 of the product, and version 4 of the product. This is what we call development iteration. And AWS really helps you to build very quickly, especially if you want to go online, because you don't need to pay upfront costs for setting up a new website, for example, right? You pay as you go. You don't need to buy servers to do this kind of things. You can have whatever IT resources, like for example, I would say 5 years ago, I can never imagine when I first started my first startup to be able to have voice to text at the click of a button. But now all startups can have this kind of stuff. So AWS has many features that allow you to take a look and build advanced features into your startups, and you should really try and take a look at it. Now, when you plan your features in MVP, I typically do it in 4 quadrants, right? The 4 quadrants that you see up there on the screen. One vertical axis, I call it the impact axis. The horizontal axis, I call it the speed axis. Which is the most important quadrant in that diagram? Put it in the chat. Tell me. Top right, top left, bottom right. Top right box. Right? Yes, definitely the top right box, right? So the problem with a lot of startups or people starting up is that they don't balance all these features on how fast and how impactful it is. Sometimes something is very impactful, takes very long. You have to decide whether you want to spend time to build it, right? And those are some very important trade-offs. Okay. Now, the most important thing is to understand what some of these trade-offs you have are. So for example, on the bottom right-hand corner, you have distractions. These are things that you want to avoid because they may be fast to build, but actually they don't help you a lot. The top right-hand corner is very important because this is what you want to focus on. The top left, you want to break it down into smaller pieces such that you can shift the smaller pieces to the top right quadrant. And the bottom left is completely undifferentiated features that you really shouldn't spend time doing. Now, when we talk about MVP, it is also very important for us really to think about several other things. Just developing an MVP alone is not going to help you build a great startup. The important thing about MVP is to optimize for learning. Now, every time you set out MVP, you want to ask yourself, what can I learn from this version of the MVP I'm setting out? All right. What are the experiments I'll do? And what are some of the prototypes I will make? You really want to optimize for learning. So when you are designing an MVP, you want to ask yourself, what will you measure? What will those measurements tell you? All right. And how do you change your products based on those measurements? I think that's important. So let us talk about a chatbot again, right? What are the things you think I should be measuring when I put a demo chatbot out and I have that as an MVP? How do I know whether someone is using it or not? What are some of the things I would measure? Right? I would like to get some of you to just put in the chat box what some of these things you would measure, right? For the chat MVP that I talked about. How many users download it? Okay, good. That's a good metric. All right. Speed of the response from the server back. Okay, that tells you latency and how good your chatbot is, or in terms of the performance of the servers, whether the chat function works, very possibly, user experience, bounce rate, accuracy. All right. This is very important, right? The one that Chelsea said, how long do users spend chatting? That sort of is a pseudo engagement metric. Number of times used by the user. All right. Now, when we optimize for learning, you got to be very careful. So when someone asks a question and drops off in 20 seconds, what does that mean for you? Right? Is that good or is that a bad thing? What do you think? Bad. Really? If I have a chat and I ask a question and the chat immediately gives me the answer and I'm happy with it and I drop off in 20 seconds, is it a bad thing? No, right? So you have to be very careful to interpret what those measurements tell you in an MVP. Right? Yeah, very good. That's exactly what Ethan has said. because the chatbot has served its purpose. Now, if you build a chatbot to interact and engage, and the engagement is long, then that's a different thing. But for a Q&A chatbot, for example, if it's a transactional chatbot, then maybe the length of time chatting is not as important. So this is what I mean by being very careful about not just what you measure, but what do those measurements actually tell you? And when you build your MVP, you want to make sure that you measure those things and it tells you how good or how bad that is. All right. So after you get all this information about your product, you need to ask yourself, okay, now I have all these measurements. How would I change my next version of the product? Remember, we went through that iteration cycle. This is exactly what we mean. Now that we have collected the MVP data, we want to ask ourselves, next, where do we go? So when I build MVPs, I start building with what we call a monolith. A monolith is when I have one server and I put everything in and everything is integrated together and it does everything. I start off with building a monolith MVP purely because it is simple to start, right? I spend maybe about one afternoon and I build my MVP and I know whether people like it or people don't like it. It does everything. And I don't need to spend too much time designing the processes of a very complex cloud architecture. However, there are many startups that decide, hey, we are going to succeed and we're going to scale very quickly. So I don't want to start with a monolith, but I do want to go out there and start up fast. So the easiest way to get started, especially with your AWS Educate credits, would be something called Light Sail. So Light Sail makes it easy to deploy websites like WordPress, Magento, Joomla, or other web applications that use the LAMP stack, for example, and you don't need to worry anything behind it, right? It just brings everything up, and you can take a look at Light Sail in your management console when you get a chance. If you are working with a dev team, you've got the resources to build something. Many of the startups actually use AWS Elastic Beanstalk to actually deploy their applications, right? It is an easy to use service to really deploy and scale web applications, and you worry a lot less about the nitty-gritty details of cloud infrastructure. All right, you can just deploy your code, and then Elastic Beanstalk would handle all your deployment, your capacity provisioning, your load balancing, auto scaling, and so on and so forth. So that's something you can consider to use to build your MVP as well. Now, I am going to get us to build something. So I actually have sort of deployed a chatbot already. All right, but I'm actually going to do a live demo here. You can actually scan that, or you can click on the link that we are putting in the chat right now. All right. So that chatbot at this moment is a very useless chatbot because I've not done anything to it. But I'm actually going to show you how I actually deployed this chatbot from scratch in less than like 10 minutes or so. All right. So let me just get out of presentation and let me walk you through some of these. Give me a minute. There we go. So okay, can you guys see my screen? That must be the most used phrase now in the whole webinar. Okay, just take a look. All right, if you can see getting started on my screen right now, can you give me a shout out on the chat? Yes, fantastic. So all these guides, I've put them on the slides. You should receive them as handouts so you can explore them yourself. But I'm just going to show you how fast it is for me to deploy a chatbot on Amazon Lex. And just to take this to a client, ask them, will you spend money on this? And if they will, then I will develop it further, right? So for example, what we have here is that we have a full immersion day, step-by-step guide on how you can build a chatbot. All right, you can just go through it. You need an account, which you can get as part of AWS Educate. You go through, they will actually teach you step by step what you need to do in order for you to actually set up your chatbot. Right, so here we actually teach you lesson 3 out of 16 on how you do it. So I'm actually going to demo the chatbot setup. So I go into AWS Management Console. This is the Management Console. So you can see there are many different solutions you can very quickly. You want to register a domain, you want to build virtual servers, you want to build a web app, it's all here. For today, I'm going to make it quick. So I'm going to go and do and set up something using called CloudFormation. All right. And that will allow me to deploy a stack now. In the interest of time, I've actually deployed a stack because that stack takes about 45 minutes to deploy, but I'm actually going to show you how it is done. So what I do is I simply take a look at the template that we have online. I copy it. I come over here. I paste it. All right. This is just a template using something called CloudFormation. All right. And here, I just need to set up something. So let's say I just set up something and I call is admin, and let me call this skateboard. Right. And I set it up. I acknowledge and I create the stack. And this would set my chatbot to be set up. This process takes a bit longer. It takes about 45 minutes because on the back end, we want to make sure that we spin up the right servers and everything. But between that, what will happen is you will end up with a stack that's like this. And you will have the instructions. But don't worry. Fundamentally, what you will see is that there are two parts to it. All right. We have the chatbot, which this is exactly what you will see as a user. And then there's the admin. So here, I'm actually going to sign in as the chatbot admin, and I'm going to show you what I can do. So let's take a look. So I have a question here, right? I basically ask a question. What is Educate? You can try it too. This is not just something I do on my end. I've put it online. You guys can try and experiment with it. And you can see that's exactly what you will respond. Now, here, what I've done is I have built a bot, and I have done it in such a way that I have the questions, and then I will have the answers. I actually can also import. I can create Q&A and quizzes, all right? And I can also import questions directly. So I have a set of questions that I've already prepared that I would like to import. Give me a minute. All right, so it is importing at this moment. Now, but what I've done is basically I built a chatbot very quickly. I've put it all up. So this is now complete. And if I go back to designer mode, I can actually see all the questions. Well, not yet, it's loading. All right. So I can ask questions like, when is the school open? Does the school have a plan? Right, if you try and type all these questions out in the chatbot that you have, it will respond. You can actually click happy or not happy with the answer. You can generate all the data for all of these questions, such that it provides you feedback, for example, on whether it is something that you want to, whether that's a good answer or not. All right. So I've got a live question here from Yu Liang. How long did I take to build the CloudFormation template? I didn't need to build the CloudFormation template. The CloudFormation template was actually available. That was designed by many of the solutions architects in AWS. that we could immediately take and deploy. So in AWS, what we do have is that we have solutions architects that put up resources for many of you and people like me to use to deploy resources online, to experiment and to build our MVP, right? Someone asked whether we need it word for word. Not really. Actually, if you take a look at the board designer, there is some fuzzy logic to it that allows for it. So let me take a look. If you take a look at this, so this is a question. All right, I can add questions, and actually the questions do have some fuzzy logic related to that. Now, obviously, this is a very basic cloud-based chatbot. What I can also do is that I can integrate AI on the back end, which is what you can do with Amazon Lex. All right, Amazon Lex is one of those services that we have that allows you to add AI immediately to a chatbot. And I think it's amazing. So it doesn't even have to be word for word. So if you can type some of these questions, is the university closed? Let's just. Is school closed? Yes. I didn't even type is university closed. I typed is school closed, even though the question that was there was is university closed. And then the chatbot basically replied this information very quickly. Right, so this is just a very quick demo of how you can actually bring up an MVP to test. Now, what I would do if I'm a startup that wants to build a chatbot is I'll very quickly build this chatbot, and I'll take this and I'll go to school teachers and I'll ask them, hey, can you try this? What do you think of this? All right. What are your experiences using this chatbot? Is it good? Is it bad? And then they tell you. So that's one thing you can do to build a better product. The next thing you can do is to take a look at this. No, so let's say people keep pressing, negative, thumbs down. All right. After a while, on the back end, you collect a lot of this data that has a lot of thumbs down for some of these responses. That tells you maybe that's not a good experience that your users are having. All right. And then you want to reconsider some of these. So let's get back to some of these presentations very quickly. Right. So for those of you who missed it just now or still want you, so this chatbot that I just built actually can be used on a computer. It can be used even on the phone because it is completely mobile based in terms of it's just web browser, right? I can take this, I can use some AWS services, I can deploy on what we call AWS Amplify, which is our app deployment services, and then you can deploy on phones as well. Right, so these are just some examples to help you quickly build your MVP. Now, I highly encourage you to experiment with all our services. After you join Educate, there are a lot of tracks that you can do. And actually, I've done some of these tracks that are really fun. It's not as difficult as you think it is. And I actually truly enjoyed doing some of these tracks. All right. Ethan said he typed, is uni open, and it responded with something about respiratory problems. Yeah, as I said, this is not a very, very smart bot at the moment. It's something that rudimentary I built and we stacked it up. Ideally, you want to build a great product, you got to spend a lot more time to take a look at the questions, and then you want to train the AI that is behind your chatbot as well to make sure that it is something that works nicely. Okay. So these are just some examples, and I'll leave the chatbot up for a while, and you guys can go and play with it. I think it's quite fun. Okay. Now, how can you build something quickly? So here I have some resources, and these resources are sent out as part of today's handouts. And I've also added some extra resources on building your app from idea to MVP using AWS Amplify. And the best way for you to experiment and try this MVP is really to go and use your AWS Educate credits, go through the tracks, build something. There is no better way to learning how to build your MVP than to build an MVP. right? Because otherwise, well, unfortunately, you are just going to have a theoretical knowledge of what MVP is. The best way to do it is to go out and to build your MVP. At AWS, we have a lot of startup programs. AWS Educate is something that Valerie had introduced to you before. It's very hands-on, fantastic training program. I run AWS at Start. AWS at Start is an EdTech accelerator program that really helps our participants to build EdTech, education technology startup. All right. On the list, you also have quite a number of other AWS programs that Activate. All right. So take a look at some of these startup programs. Now, with that, I have sort of come to the end of the MVP 101, but I really would like to spend a bit of time to answer some of your questions that you may have, that I actually reserve sometimes at the back, just to make sure that if you have an MVP question, I really like to answer them. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes, put up the questions that you may have, while I take a look at what some of these questions are as well. All right. All right. So as I'm waiting for more questions, we do have a question here on startup, build an idea, do research, build prototype, come to an MVP, right? When is an appropriate time to consider registering a business? Registering a business is potentially could be a very big thing, depending on which country you are at. In Singapore, it takes a bit of effort. It's not too difficult, but more importantly, I think you really want to register a business when you think you are ready, right? When I was running my own startups, I didn't register a business until it was very late, until I had a product that I felt was ready to go. It's something that you have to decide what is best for you, right? Some people may register very early. Some people only register when they're ready to sell. It's really up to you. How comfortable you are with the product you are going out to the market with. All right. I have a question here on how long should you do market validation for? Market validation is not a single process. Market validation is it's an iterative, multi-phase process. All right. You will want to take as long as it takes for you to show that you can get traction. It takes a bit of time for you. You will never ever get market validation on your first prototype. That's the reality of things. You may think you know your users really, really well. You will put your first product, your first MVP out there, and your users will tell you, maybe I'll buy this, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe you should change something. And then you do a second version. All right, but you always need to make sure you spend market validation, spend time doing market validation. And to me, market validation comes down to a few things. When your product is validated by the market, people will spend money on your product, right? Especially if it's transactional thing. Some customers will tell you a lot of good things about your product, but they won't buy your product. I think to me, the golden test is really people will spend money to buy your product. That to me is market validation. Okay. I have a question here talking about MVP chatbot. If we want to start to build a website, what is the best way to build an MVP website and learn web development? I would say try out AWS. We have Lightsail. Lightsail really allows you to spin up a web server really quickly. Or if you want something more in-depth, we have Elastic Beanstalk that AWS provides. And all these things is part of your AWS Educate training package. Right. Right. Another question. How do you know when to pivot or when to give up? Now, this is a personal choice. Usually, I give up when I run out of money. I think that's very practical. But it's so that was obviously a joke. But you do want to test and get a sense of whether your MVP can actually evolve to a point that you can hit market validation. if you do multiple MVPs and you keep putting it out to the market and your market doesn't seem to have a positive response, you have to ask yourself this. Is this really something that fundamentally people would buy or would use? And I think it is a personal decision because every product is different. If you feel that fundamentally it is something that no matter how you iterate, no one is going to be able to or would want to buy that, it's something that you would want to consider to pivot to a new idea or to give up. And all this is best driven by data when you are building your MVP. That's why when you build your MVP, you want to make sure that you measure the right stuff. Let me give you an example. The chat bot that we did earlier, okay, I can set it such that on the back end, I record every interaction on AWS. Everything that you typed in, how long you spend typing it in, if I want to, how many times I interact with the chatbot. Am I a repeat customer of the chatbot, for example? That tells me a lot of things. But the problem about it is, actually, if you have 1,000 users, it is overwhelming amount of data that you have to manage. So what we have at AWS is that we allow our startups to build dashboards, and you can plot all the data nicely to get a sense of how much people use each of your services, how do they interact with it, and then to make the correct business decisions from there. I think that's important. All right. I have a question here on how many co-founders is too many. Any personal advice? Too many cooks usually spoils. Makes a lot of problems, right? Every startup tends to work closely together, but as you work over 2-3 years, the stress of working in a startup, co-founders may not stay together. You also cannot build a startup sometimes on your own. You may need to find a co-founder, right? So how many co-founders is too many? Personally, I think anything more than 2 is a bit of a stretch. This is completely personal, purely because from a human dynamics perspective, getting agreement of all 3 co-founders on an idea, on a feature, takes a while. And this is not just about building a product, right? It's about building a company. And all of you have been in schools before. Even just doing a group work of 3 people, sometimes you realize that it is really difficult to get 3 people to agree on something. So can you imagine building a startup or building an MVP with 3 people where you actually have to agree, or if not, someone will walk away and then you have a lot of problems. So that potentially may be something that you want to consider. Now, that I know of some startups with 3 or 4 co-founders that work really, really well together for a good number of years. So I'm not saying it's impossible, right? I'm saying that you have to understand the startup and the people that you're working with when you're working and building this MVP, and then weigh and consider how and best to work with all of them. All right. So I have a question by Henin. For very new and innovative products, is it safe in terms of intellectual property to release the MVP public to do user testing? And that's a very good question. You have to balance between that and getting the right feedback from your startups, from your users. Because if you keep hiding everything, you're not going to get any feedback. You're going to design a really bad product. That's a problem. But if you put it out and then someone copies you very quickly, that's also a problem. So usually for MVP, there are a lot of startups that actually do limited releases of their MVPs to small groups of people to test. This minimizes the interaction when it comes to some of these intellectual property problems. You cannot completely avoid it, but it is something that you do, want to be a bit careful about. Right. I'm just going to take one question on makeup of a MVP dream team. All right. MVP dream team. I think it's awesome to have someone that looks at the product, someone that builds, and someone that runs it from a business perspective. And as you said, right, one tech person, one salesperson, one marketing person, and one operations person. It's MVP. It's really not. It's not different from a company. A startup, generally, you end up with a few people, and everyone has to do every single role. But I think what's more important from an MVP really is you want to remember to put your users first. All right. MVP dream team is not useful if you don't have your users first. If you have your users first, it really doesn't matter, because from this point onwards, you can take a look at it and you can see how you can actually build the best product. All right. So with that, I will stop here. Just nice. Thank you for all your questions. It's been a great session. I really hope to see all of you building your MVPs. Take a look at AWS Educate, built on AWS. You'll be surprised how many resources we have for you online for you to build your MVP. All right. So with that, I will hand over back to Natalie. Thank you very much for spending time with me today, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ivan, for the workshop. I think I myself learned a lot, and I think it's very nice how you shared a lot of resources with them. If there are still some questions, and if Ivan still can stay, you can put them in the Q&A, and he can just type in the responses to you guys. So that will work. If not, please do connect with him via LinkedIn. If you'd like to follow up with him, of course, once again, please reach out respectfully and professionally. So just to really round up today's session, sorry. So these are the 3 topics of the AWS Educate Startup module that we covered today. So we covered getting started as a founder, customer discovery and development, as well as building your MVP. So what we'll look at tomorrow is legal fundamentals, how to fundraise, as well as growth strategies and company culture. So it'll be 2 panels as well as 1 fireside chat. So that'll be really interesting as well. Besides that, we will also be releasing the link for the AWS Virtual Career Fair, and we will be releasing more details on how you can redeem your AWS Xscape shirt and certificate. So please do remember to come down again tomorrow so you can get all this information and you can get, basically the full deal of this whole bootcamp that you signed up for. And finally, we would really like to find out what you think about this session today. This will really help us just in case we need to readjust the program a little bit for tomorrow, or it just helps us for future bootcamps themselves. So I will launch the poll right now. You should be able to see it on your screens now. So I'll give you guys maybe about 30 seconds or so to fill up the poll. It's a pretty easy poll. So yeah, I'll just leave you guys to it. And I see some responses coming in, so that's very nice. All right, I'll give you guys about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, I think it stopped. Okay, thank you very much. I do see some people that are still not sure about some aspects of the AWS Educate platform. More details will be sent to you via the post-event email on a short guide on how to use the platform correctly. And after today's session, I will just send through that guide as well, just in case you guys still need to find out how to use it, how to register, and all of that type of stuff. Yes, but thank you so much for the poll results. And with that, yes, I just would like to really close off the session. Thank you so much, guys, for coming down today. And I really hope to see you guys tomorrow. Remember, once again, only the link for the career fair as well as how to redeem the shirt and certificates will be released tomorrow. So please remember to come down, not only for the panels, but for that as well. And yeah, if you haven't registered for your AWS Educate account, please do so as well. I'll leave the screen here about 5 minutes. So you can just continue to scan, or you can access the link as well. Tomorrow's session will start at 3 p.m., but the room will be open at 2:55, so you can just come down then. Yes, thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening. I hope you have a great dinner, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll be closing the room in about 5 minutes or so. So yes, I'll just let you guys all exit. But those that are maybe AFK or something, I'll just remove you guys, just so you know. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the thank yous in chat. See you tomorrow. All right, it's been 5 minutes, so I'm going to assume that everyone here is AFK or so. So I'm just going to remove you guys. See you guys tomorrow if you're still here. Bye. Okay. Bye, Ju. Bye. Bye. Oka, you still here? If you are, you can go. Oka? Okay, Oka, you're AFK, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
Yes, I was there. I was going out.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. You can leave. Bye.